If you are an Indian citizen between the ages of 18 to 30 and want to come to the UK to live or to work, then this visa is for you. Let me remind you that the Young Professional Scheme does not require a sponsored job, nor does it require any IELTS to be given at this stage. So if any of this is of interest to you, do not forget to watch this video all the way to the end, because in today's video, I will be sharing some key information and clearing out some common misconceptions about this visa and also all of your doubts. And if any of this is of interest to you, do not forget, my name is Nikita and I make videos about living in the UK, working as a healthcare professional and landing those jobs. And if any of this is something that you might be interested in, do not forget to follow me on Instagram. My handle is Physiotherapy in UK, but also drop me a subscribe on YouTube. So let's get into the nitty-gritties. So just before we go into some of the most common questions about the Young Professional Scheme, let's see what the Young Professional Scheme is. So the Young Professional Scheme is a visa that allows you in order to come to the UK and live and work here for up to 2 years as an Indian citizen. Now, obviously, as a part of this visa, you're allowed to come and study in the UK. You're allowed to work in the UK for most jobs, except some specialized jobs. And I'll leave the link for this information in the description below. So definitely go and check that out. And finally, you are allowed to be self-employed. That is, you're allowed to work contract jobs, but you're also allowed to set up a limited company or a company and work for it. So this is brilliant because, again, this is an exception that most people on a work visa cannot do. That is, they cannot open a company under their name on the work visa. So I personally feel this is a brilliant way for you to come and set up your company in the UK if that's something that you're keen. So now that we've covered everything that you can do on this visa, let's talk about the things that you can't do. So the first thing that you absolutely cannot do is access public funds. The second thing is you cannot extend your stay. So say, for example, you have been eligible and you've been successful for this visa, you've applied for it and you've been granted permission to live in the UK for up to 2 years. That just means that at the end of the 2 years, say for example in September 2026, you have to either find a way to move on to another eligible visa category, which could be the student visa, or it could be the work visa, or it could be an innovator visa within the UK, or you might have to go back home. You cannot extend your stay on this particular visa category. I hope that makes sense, but if not, let me know in the comments below and I will try to get back to you. The third thing that you cannot be doing is taking your family along with you. So as a part of this visa category, you cannot get dependents. So if you are somebody who is planning to come to the UK with your young children or your spouse, then maybe this is not the best visa category for you and you might need to look at other options such as the work visa or the health and care worker visa. Now, if you are interested in any of that, let me tell you that I've got you. Do not forget to check out these videos because they have so much more information about these specific visa categories and what are the eligibility requirements for them. And finally, coming down to the fourth thing that you cannot do on this particular visa category is work as a sports professional. So you cannot be a professional sports person for this country as a part of this particular visa category, which I think is again completely reasonable because most of us are not national or international level athletes who would be applying for this visa. So now that we've covered all of these requirements, let's just check what are some of the eligibility criteria for this particular visa category. So as you can see on your screens right there, it's pretty simple. You firstly need to be an Indian citizen, ages between the age of 18 to 30. You obviously need to have some proof of financial funds in your accounts. That is about £2,530. Now this money should be saved in an account where you are either the joint account holder or the sole holder of the account. And finally, you need to have an eligible qualification. Now, for more details about what is an eligible qualification and whether diplomas are considered, I would highly recommend checking out this video where I've explained everything in super detail, especially about if you are on the fence about whether your diploma is going to be considered a valid degree for this particular visa category. And finally, like I've said before, the last eligibility criteria is that you shouldn't have any children who are living with you or who are financially dependent on you, because as a part of this visa, you are not allowed to get dependents. So let's come down to some of the most common questions that I think everybody has on their mind. So firstly, when does this particular visa ballot open? So this visa ballot starts on the 16th of July and will go all the way up to the 18th of July. It is open for 48 hours, so do not be stressed if you are sort of working midday or if you're concerned that you might not be able to make your application just at the right time. So what are the total costs in order to apply for this particular visa? So let me remind you that this visa works as a ballot scheme. So that is a random application system which will select eligible applications from this big visa pool where you submit your initial ballot application. In order to make the ballot application itself, there is no fees. So it's completely free and you do not need to pay a penny to anybody, including the UK Home Office. However, if you are selected as a part of this ballot scheme, you will be offered the opportunity to complete a visa application in order to come and live in the UK. Now, for the visa application, the total cost is £298 for the whole of 2 years. And along with that, you also need to pay the immigration health surcharge, which stands at £1,552. So that is the total visa fees that you need to be paying once you are selected as a part of this particular visa category. Now coming down to the third question, which is what is the proof of funds that is required for you? So the proof of funds is basically an amount of money that you need to have within your bank accounts in India. The UK government does not ask you to pay this as a part of your visa application. However, these funds are just there in your bank account to show that if you come to the UK or move to the UK, you have the financial funds to support yourself. And that is currently, like I said, at £2,530. Now, even if you just consider the conversion rate of 100 rupees per pound, this is really rough and it keeps changing on a daily basis, but this is just to give you an example. That is about 2,53,000 rupees, which I think is what you should have in your Indian bank accounts, especially if you are considering to apply for this visa. So do this right now, right away, just so that you don't miss this opportunity in case you are selected as a part of this visa category. Now that we've covered all of the questions related to the visa fee, I know the next most common question is going to be, Nikita, what if my visa is rejected? Do I get my fees back? Now, just to remind you, as a part of this process, they have clearly stated that if you are successful and you land a sort of email to apply for the visa, but if your visa application is unsuccessful because of several reasons, that could be wrong details or maybe some other reason, your visa fees will not be refundable. So that it will be gone and you cannot get that back again. However, there might be a chance that you would be able to access your immigration health surcharge, which, like I said, is the bigger fees that you're paying along with your visa fees. So they have said that you might be able to access it, but my recommendation to you guys would be make sure that you have submitted the right information so that you reduce your chances of visa rejection. Now coming down to the next question, which is, can you amend any of the information that you have submitted as a part of your visa? Now, just let me remind you, when you make those applications into the ballot scheme or onto your visa application, none of that information can go ahead and be amended. So when you are making your applications, make sure you have a family member. I usually used to have my dad sitting along with me who would keep a fine eye and keep looking at everything that I have written down on my visa applications, because it's really helpful to have that person along with you scrutinizing every detail, especially minor details such as your email address or your telephone number or your first name and your surname. Now again, many of you all have questions about your surname being written a bit differently on your passport. How should you be filling up the ballot system or the visa form for yourself? Please do not forget that I've answered this question in a previous video. I'll leave the link for that somewhere above so that you can get all of that information that you need and make the visa form in the right way and make the ballot form in the right way as well. Coming down to the next question is, will there be increased chances if I had to make multiple applications into the ballot system? Now, let me remind you, the way that the ballot system works is obviously that it picks out random applications, but each application is tied on to your passport number. Now, assuming the fact that you are a genuine person, you will only have a single passport, and that single passport means that even if you had to change your email ID and your contact details, your passport number would still be the same for you. So they would just consider that one application that you would have made initially as a part of that passport. So do remember that making multiple sort of entries into the ballot does not increase your chances of landing this particular visa category. However, just remember that making that one good application puts you closer in order to be successful for this visa category. Now coming down to the next question, which is, a lot of people last time around were confused about having to pay some funds in order to start the ballot process or having to pay funds in order to enter the ballot scheme. And I just wanted to let you know out there right now is that the ballot scheme is entirely free. You do not need to pay in order to enter the ballot system. So if any agent or anybody on YouTube is asking you for fees in order to enter the ballot scheme, please do not respond to them. It is scam, it is fraud, it is not meant for you. You can do the process by yourself, and the process for it is very easy. I'll leave the links for all of this in the description below and somewhere on my YouTube page. So definitely go ahead and check that out. It's a very straightforward process that you can do by yourself. So please do not fall for scams or frauds where they ask you to pay fees in order to apply for the ballot system or the young professional scheme. Now, another question that I get asked really commonly on this particular visa category is, if you are already present in the UK, can you make another application under this visa route? And the answer to this honestly is it depends on what visa category you're on. So for example, if you are on a dependent visa category, would you consider making this particular visa entry under the ballot system? And my answer would be no, because if you are on a dependent visa, whether that's a work dependent visa, then your chances of continuing on that route are really high. So I would advise you not to change or not to apply for the ballot scheme, especially because you will not be allowed to get your dependent. So if your spouse is already working and you're coming as a dependent to them, it doesn't make sense for you to apply for this visa category. I hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't, let me know in the comments below. However, if you are a student who is at the end of their PSW, so say for example, your PSW is going to end 6 months from now, you have not landed a job, you have not landed a sponsored role, you do not know what you are meant to be doing in the UK on any other visa category, then I would say that yes, this could be the right opportunity for you. So go ahead and make your application into the ballot scheme as far as you meet all of the eligibility requirements. Now again, a lot of students might consider this visa category because they might not want to apply for the PSW. There is no harm in you making an application under this visa category if that is what you want. But like I said, if you are a student, maybe focus all of your interest and energy into landing a role, and you can have this as a bit of a backup if you are not landing any roles or not landing a PSW. Now I hope this video was useful, guys, and if it did, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. Take care.